So it's September, and if we didn't look at a calendar, likely by feeling the weather outside, we'd know it. And September brings on, it's the 9th month, so it brings on the 9th step. And made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. It's a big undertaking. It's a really big undertaking. It talks about making amends even to those people that we don't really feel that we need to make amends to. We're required to repair the damage that we created in our past. Making amends means making change. Not just saying, I'm sorry for what I did, but actually getting into details on how you hurt the other person. Many times we have said, I'm sorry to our friends, to our family, to our parents, said we'll never do that again, to our wives. I'll never do that again, only to wake up the next day and change. That whole behavior just continues to happen. So people have lost trust and they don't believe us very often when we do that. Our families and friends have heard the empty promises forever. It's time now to do something different, to rebuild the trust and to turn things around for the better. It's clear in the big book how we should do this. On page 76, it lays it out, what we need to do. Clearly we know that faith without works is dead, doesn't work. We have to take action. We have to put into action what we know we have to do. All the words without action mean nothing. We have subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal and listed all of the people that we have harmed in the past and the ones that we need to make amends to. This list may include people such as your family, your friends, your business associates, employers, and anyone else that you may have come across while you're in your addiction, and maybe other things or other agencies that you may have harmed or you have done harm to. In the book it says, now we go out to our fellows and we repair the damage that we've done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of the efforts to live in our selfish self-centeredness and running our own show. If we haven't the will to do this, then we have to ask through prayer and through meditation until that will comes. Often we have to pray to be willing to take this step, or willing to take this step. Remember, we agreed in the beginning, and I don't know how many of you would remember this, but on the day that you were suffering so bad, either in jail or at home, and things had gone bad, the police are knocking on your door, and you said we would go to any lengths for victory over our disease of addiction. And I remember saying it, and I know many of you have said it, that we will do anything to get over this. And how it works, it says, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And I'm here to tell you that step 9 is one of those certain steps that we must take. Making amends is the essential healing mechanism of the 12 steps that restores relationships and the principles of justice and fairness. Step 9 requires us to be fearless. Taking this step, in some cases, is more fearful than doing your step 4 or even step 5, where you have to tell everything that you've done to somebody else. It takes courage and it takes determination to follow through. We need good support from our friends, from our recovery community, from our sponsor, from our mentors, and when we can, from our family members. In this step, we make amends even if we are embarrassed or if we're afraid. The only exception is if we feel these amends may hurt the person we're going to make them to or other people around them. When we cannot make amends, either because we would cause more harm, because the person is deceased, or because we cannot locate the person, and I know in some cases you can't remember the person's name, we still remain willing to make our amends and to do so in our prayers. Making amends is cleansing. Once we are cleansed, we do our daily maintenance and we review every day when necessary and take the steps to keep our side of the street clean and to get rid of our emotional debt. Step 9 completes what we started in step 8. When we make amends to those that we have harmed, we pay back the debts we owe. We apologize, we write letters, we find the time to do and say the things that would help heal the damage that we have done. We try to bring goodness where previously we have brought discord and destruction. It takes insight, it takes courage, it takes dedication to make such amends. But now we have the help of our higher power, the God of our understanding, to know what to do and to how to do it. We start to live the kind of life that our higher power has meant us to live all of our lives. We become the men and women that we were born to be. The two fundamental principles of drug court are honesty and accountability. These are two basic principles that we should all learn to live by. When our men and women go out looking for employment, they're told that they have to tell their potential employers right up front that they do have a criminal record, that they have to be in drug court once a week. Every Thursday they need off from their employment to go to court. They have to tell the whole circumstances to their employer before they can get hired. Making amends is what we're talking about here, and so this was a number of years ago. One of our participants was sitting in our office just after he completed treatment, and he was telling me how afraid he was to go out and tell any employer about his past, that he had a criminal record, that he was an addict, and things were going on. And we were discussing it. As we were discussing it, this was maybe a little bit of a God shot, another graduate called to tell me that his employer was looking for more people and would be really, really happy to hire some drug court people. I asked what the employer's name was, and as I passed it on to the young man that was talking to me, he got this really, really funny look on his face, and he said, "I can't possibly go there." I said, "Why not?" He said, "That was the last place I worked. When I relapsed, I disappeared, and I've never talked to them since." He said, "I couldn't possibly go back and face them." So a little bit of shame coming out here. So we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and I finally convinced him from my office to phone that employer and make an appointment to go and see him. Not to get a job. That was the last thing that he had to have on his mind, but phone him to go and see him and make an amends. He mustered his courage, he made the call, the guy was in, had an appointment within an hour, he went to see him, phoned me back about an hour after that, very, very excited. He made his amends, and the guy offered him a job. And he said, "I wish everybody had the honesty and the accountability that you have. I see that you're changing your life, and I want to be part of that change, and I'm going to give you a job back." And he did that. And that's what honesty and accountability does for us, and making the amends. So go back and say, "I'm sorry. This is what was going on in my life. This is why I did it, and I really want to make it up." It happens in many, many cases with many people that do it. Our lives begin to change. The whole purpose of making amends are for us to get straight with the universe and to enable us to stop carrying the guilt and the shame associated with our past behaviors. And we all had it, we all have it. It's to start the healing process and to bring our family and our friends back into our lives. And I know many of you, through recovery and through working these steps, have reconnected with family. You've reconnected with your children, you've reconnected with your parents. Ex-girlfriends, boyfriends have come back into your life because they see the change that you're making from working these steps. In the scripture tonight, it's Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4, and it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." The scripture talks about not being selfish, to think of others before yourself, and we talk about that all the time in recovery. We are never an island unto ourselves. We are part of a larger community. As we move forward in our recovery, we must make things right. We've got to straighten up the world and make things right so that we can move forward in our lives. Part of making amends to people is showing them how we have changed. It challenges us to be a giver rather than a taker. It's amazing what happens when we put others first, when we take sincere interest in what others are doing and what is going on in their lives. We suddenly lose our selfish self-centeredness and our selfish interests and become a little more humble. Showing love to our friends and our enemies, friends and enemies brings love to us because they in turn will give us love back. I've always believed that we get what we give. Whatever we give out, we'll get it back in spades. Be a giver, not a taker. We're never an island unto ourselves. We are part of the whole, part of the universe, and we need to be in harmony with the others in our loving community. When others hurt, we hurt. Likewise, when we hurt, others hurt. Early in recovery, we have to be somewhat self-centered to concentrate on our own welfare, just to stay sober. Once we have started growing in our recovery, we need to move beyond self-centeredness and become interested in others. That's where our 12th step comes in. Part of making amends to others is showing them that we really have changed. As we love others, we will find that others love us. It's really a strange concept, but it works and it's true. When that starts to happen, our relationships grow. They grow stronger, and our addictions will lose their grip on us, possibly forever, if we do this each and every day. Making amends is a very fearful activity. We talked about that a bit earlier. I don't know about you, but being humble enough to make an amends takes courage, and it certainly takes determination. We need support from our sponsor, and most importantly, we need to go back and visit our third step and turn our will and our life over to the care of the Creator, the God of our understanding, and ask for His help to do this. Each day and on each and every amends that we're about to do. We need to ask His help in setting priorities. We need help for the courage to move forward and to take action. I suppose we need to look at the reason why we should make an amends, why we should rid ourselves of the resentments. As you know, holding resentments is the largest reason that alcoholics and addicts choose to go back out and use again. It says in the big book that our resentments keep us separated from the power greater than ourselves. We must eliminate them if we want to have a spiritual awakening. When we do not get rid of the resentments, it's like we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. The insanity of alcohol and drugs returns, and we drink or drug again. To drink again, for me and for many of us, means certain death. The big book instructs us to look at what our part in each of the resentments was, what our part in the activity was. We must put out of our minds what others have done to us and look at what our part was in each of the incidents. We must look where we have been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. This is called cleaning our side of the street. We had to look at where we were to blame and what our part was. Take accountability for it, admit our wrongs, honestly, and be willing to set these matters straight. The shortcomings of selfishness, dishonesty, self-seeking, and frightened or fear are based on our self-will, not God's will. God's will is unselfishness, honesty, purity, and love. Concerning our resentments, the big book authors provided us specific instructions on what to do. We must get beyond the resentments if we expect to live long and happy in this world. If we have faith that God will keep us safe and protected, we will receive the strength and the direction to overcome all of our fears, including the fear of making amends. We overcome fear with faith. Therefore, according to the authors of the big book, faith is the asset that corresponds to the liability of fear. Just in closing, I want to encourage everyone to make their amends. Talk to your sponsor, talk to your recovery community, talk to your advisors, and make a list of priorities of what amends you're going to do, which ones you're going to do first, and move on down the list. That doesn't end the process. We need to check our behaviors every day, and when required, to promptly make amends to keep our side of the street clean at all times. Always keeping in mind that we don't want to cause more harm to other people. If we are diligent with this part of our program, the promises will start to come true, as they are with many of you. And I know many of you have experienced that. The promises do come true if you work for them, but you have to do the work. And that's the one thing about the promises. They don't come true if you don't do the work. I think it says somewhere in how it works is half measures availed us nothing. They didn't give us half the results, but they don't give us anything. So we have to do the work, and we have to work hard. As we read As we read every week, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we do the work for them.